Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
You guys keep up the good work, man. Podcasts are the way of the future.
Doc and Jock have shown up for mandatory podcasting. Thanks, everybody, for downloading the latest edition of the Doc and Jock podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, joining me, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Look, we can renegotiate contracts all day long, but he's still going to show up here. He ain't like Darius Slay and Snacks Harrison, who have decided that with 2 years left on their contracts, they're going to make a move, and they're not going to show up for mandatory minicamp. Now, the OTA stuff, I never have a problem with. Man, cuz the stuff that you hear in regards to the bonuses that they get, that they can earn for working out, they both declined potentially $250,000
Isn't that crazy?
in bonuses not to show up. Are you kidding me? There's $250,000. And all you got to do is just kind of stand there with your boys, hang out in shorts and chit-chat, organize team activities. You're doing nothing. And you get $250,000. I don't understand why they wouldn't show up for that. But in essence, now the Detroit Lions are facing something similar that a lot of teams have to face with their talent. And it really is something that is fascinating to look at because it makes everybody kind of pick pro team or pro athlete. A lot of people right now are weighing in and discussing and debating how upset we should be that Darius Slay and Snacks Harrison are not participating in mandatory minicamp because of the fact that they want more money. And the Detroit Lions are in a position to pay it because they got a lot more flexibility in their cap situation. So for me, my honest opinion is, in order for a team to have success, the leaders have to step up. You're making millions of dollars, and if you want to, at any point in time in your career, go and pay attention to what others are going to make, then you could probably hold out each contract that you sign. But unfortunately, Snacks Harrison and Darius Slay, they're making good money. They're not making chump change. Now, Darius Slay, he's not the highest paid person at his position, and he's looking at others, and obviously each free agent year, the new bar is set. So if you want to, as an athlete, look at that in the NFL, I understand what you're doing. But in terms of team success, this can't be helping because of the fact now that the Detroit Lions are being built as a defensive squad. They're obviously relying heavily on veterans. They have a bunch of young cats now that need to learn the system. So having Slay and Snacks there would be very beneficial. I know it's not like serious football right now, but the message that it sends is right now is that Darius Slay and Snacks are all about Darius Slay and Snacks. I can't begrudge them for that, but when you look at it and say, what's in the best interest of the team, this ain't it.
So this is what's perplexing about all of this, right? Both these guys have 2 years left on their deal. Darius Slay just renegotiated a contract back in 2016. So at that time, he said, hey, guys, I want you to pay me more money. They were like, yeah, sure, we'll definitely pay you more money. And essentially, he ended up getting a little bit more than $14.5 million guaranteed. That was his signing bonus. He then got a roster bonus. The year after that, he got another roster bonus in the amount of $3.6 million. So guaranteed money out of this contract extension that he got, we're looking at roughly $18.1 million over the course of 2 years, plus a little bit for another roster bonus that he's had. That's crazy. So now you want to come back to the table while you still have 2 years left on your deal, and you are set to earn $12.5 million, and you want more money? But it doesn't make any sense to me. You can't, every year, you can't just keep renegotiating your contract. It doesn't work like that. That's not how it's set up. If the team got you on a sweetheart deal, right, because of what you were or where you're at, that's a benefit for the team. You should have negotiated harder at the time of your extension back in 2016. As far as Damon Harrison goes, This is a guy who signed a contract with the Jets. He came from the Jets. He signed a contract with the Giants back in 2016. All right, he's a defensive lineman. When he signed his contract, he was essentially guaranteed $11 million. D linemen get paid. The way the scales work, D linemen get paid way less than a cornerback, right? So if you're a star cornerback or you're a top 5 cornerback, you're going to get paid a little bit more than a D lineman's going to get paid, no matter what that D lineman means to your defense, or especially an interior D lineman. It's just the way it works, guys. All right, so he was given $11 million then. This year, he's set to earn $6.75 million. You can't just keep coming back and the whole reason the Lions traded for you was because of your deal. Do you know what I'm saying? You have 2 years left. I can understand that you want to renegotiate when you have 1 year left, okay? And that's to protect yourself, protect your family, protect your investment in you. Because if you get hurt during training camp, you're going to miss the season. You have no way to guarantee yourself a contract or guarantee yourself that big money contract that you need or that you want or that you're looking for. With 2 years left, though, I don't understand what pull they have. You know, at this point, you're just losing money. If you show up and you just run around or you sit on a bike, like, honestly, you just have to be in-house to get this bonus. Be in-house, maybe have some pads on, and just sit on a bike. Be like, oh, my knee's bothering me. I think I'm going to go do some light work on the bike. That's all you got to do. Honestly, what they're doing right now in minicamp is they're just installing parts of game plans. That's it. Hey, guys, this is what our offense is going to look like. This is what this set's going to look like. Hey, Hawkinson, we want to see if you can run this route. Okay, cool. You can. Oh, okay, cool. You can't. So now we're going to move some guys around. We're going to try some different. Hey, Micah Roberts, what can you do? That's what this is. That's what it is. And it's there to help you get in condition. So honestly, oh, my knee's a little bit sore. Go sit down on the bike. Go ride the bike. It's low impact. You're going to be fine. You're burning money by not showing up, and you have no leverage. This is so bothersome to me because you guys as faces of that defense, essentially captains of that defense, whether you wear the C or not, Damon Harrison is a very outspoken player. He's a captain on that defense. Darius Slay, very outspoken player. He's a captain on that team. All right. When the media goes into the locker room and they're holding microphones in front of dudes' faces, which dudes do you think it is? It's these two guys, right?
And cuz, you know what the fascinating look at in 2019, what they can do is they're retweeting all the positive pro-love from the fans. Like, oh, guys, you guys are the best. Here's all the stats that show why you need to earn your money. It's a fascinating look at negotiating through the media and on social media, and especially with Instagram Live going on there and saying, I ain't showing up.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you can handle yourself in a more professional manner. Just stay silent, wait till this blows over, and handle your business. Not flaunt it in everybody's face like, hey, I'm laying out, I'm playing video games, I ain't showing up, nothing there for me to do. It's kind of like, okay, because of the fact that there was talk last year of some of the guys not buying in, some of the fact, and eventually speaking, I think we all can relate to this a little bit. You show up at a job, something new you're passionate about, you're all about the business. You're all about, okay, if the boss asks me to work an extra Saturday, no problem. Yes. Eventually speaking, you come to the crossroads and you realize, shit, I ain't happy here anymore. And when you play for the Lions, everybody goes through it. That's why I'm not mad. It's just disappointing because I can look at both sides of it. But eventually speaking, when you play for the Lions, no matter what happens, it's a culture, it's an organization. At some point, it pushes everybody to go, fuck it. I don't care anymore. You asked me to stay overtime? Hell no. You asked me to do this? No. You got to pay me to be happy here. And that's what sucks about that culture is that you would hope that Matt Patricia would have come in and really sold people to really believe in the system and believe in the process. But for some reason, for some athletes, you don't buy in. And there's always something going on with the Detroit Lions. But eventually speaking, I understand that Darius Slay doesn't want to cave anymore. He wants the paper. And that's now his agenda is, hey, what's best for Darius? And if showing up to minicamp is not in my interest, he's not going to do it.
All right, but that's fine, right? If you want the money and you knew you were going to be barking up this tree, why would you sign a 5-year extension? Why not sign a 4-year extension? And then you can come back to the table. And this is what is so perplexing to me and mind-boggling to me. You're not going to get that high-end deal when you're an older player.
Exactly.
It doesn't benefit the team to sign you when you're in your 30s.
For a long-term deal, exactly.
So why not get this deal to end or just about end when you're on the other side of 30, when you're 29, not when you are 30 or on your way to being 31. That doesn't make sense. Over the course of his career, I've got some numbers for you. Over the course of his career, Darius Slay has earned over $30.9 million, while Damon Harrison, over the course of his career, has earned $33.85 million. When all is said and done, when these two contracts come to an end, right? Now, mind you, Damon Harrison is, I believe, 2 years older than Darius Slay. I think he is now 30, and when his contract is done, he'll be 32. Darius Slay, I believe, is 28, and he will be 30 when his contract is done. At the very, very end of his contract, this is before all these bonuses that they're not getting because they're not showing up for their workouts, Damon Harrison would have totaled over $50 million. It's pretty good living, bro. Darius Slay, $54.45 million. The money's there. You guys are getting taken care of, and you have been taken care of. I understand that you want to renegotiate because Damon Harrison had a hell of a second half of the season last year. I get it. You want to lock in some long-term financial investment for yourself. You have to look at what the Lions just did in this draft. All right, they went out and they added guys. They added pieces who look like they might or could possibly challenge or replace Snacks. As far as Darius Slay goes, that cornerback position is so wonky. It's so weird. Out of the two of these guys, if there's one guy who's going to get that extension and they're going to play their cards right, it'll probably be Darius Slay. And it's just because of what that position means, what that position brings. Look, we both agree, Darius Slay had a very down year last year. Wasn't very good. Second half of the season got much better, but that first half was absolutely brutal. And when it was all said and done, he was below what he was a year ago, what he was 2 and 3 years ago. All right, so let that sink in. So now, if you're the Detroit Lions and you've got a guy who wants to negotiate with you for more money, you've got to look at him and got to be like, well, long-term, what are we getting? We're already starting to see signs of you slipping. Yeah, you had a better second half of the season, but still, we're starting to see signs of you slipping. As far as Damon Harrison goes, you're going to be 32 when this contract expires. Why do we want to invest long-term in you? Because honestly, guys, there's a huge dip in a player's performance after the age of 30. Everything starts to go downhill. Some guys like Tom Brady can play into their 40s. Usually D linemen, those aren't the guys. There's just too much wear and tear. These guys get into car accidents every single play. So it doesn't make sense for the team. It doesn't benefit the team to sign you to a long-term deal.
Oh, no.
It makes sense, 100%. Don't give them the money. But do you think this plays out? Do you think that Darius Slay and Snacks Harrison will take this into training camp?
Ooh. Do they pull a Le'Veon Bell type maneuver where they sit out a whole season? I think that's the bigger question. I think that they will take this into, like week 1 of the preseason. And you have to realize guys don't get paid for the preseason. So it doesn't really benefit them to come back. The only thing that's going to benefit them is to get in shape for the regular season.
By missing minicamp right now, they're only going to miss out on $88,000 each.
Right.
Okay, so big money starts getting taken out of their paychecks and things like that when they start missing training camp. Yep. Big money, and they could, if they decide to write it out.
Fined.
Yeah, you start getting fined.
Yes.
Big money.
Every day that you missed, you get fined.
And you could miss your whole salary if you sit out. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't
think so either.
Probably they'll...
You know what's weird, though?
Miss the entire preseason. So, is that something that's relevant? Do you say, okay, if they both come back game 1, is that something that really significantly hurts the team? Because they're both veterans. Mm-hmm. They'll say, look, we can train on our own. We don't have to kind of go through the wear and tear of training camp and things like that. We can sit out. We don't have to play these 4 games that are meaningless anyway. Let's just show up for the season and handle our business if we don't get a deal done.
Yeah, they can do that. The thing that I think is really interesting is Drew Rosenhaus is the agent for both these guys.
Big money guy.
Yeah, and they both have similar contracts, 2 years left, and they both play for the same exact team. So how does he plan to manipulate this? Because again, like you said, he's a big money guy. This is a guy who likes to orchestrate things, and he does love to use the media to get his point across with his players. I don't know if this is the best advice for these guys. I really don't. You're losing money because you're missing minicamp. And then if you go into the preseason or you go into training camp and you're missing time, what is this benefiting you? This doesn't do anything for you. You want an extension. Lions do have some free agent money, right? They do have some cap space to play with.
So Drew Rosenhaus is to blame. He's telling them.
No,
obviously, he's telling them.
I just find it interesting as an agent. why you would negotiate this way, right? You know you don't have the leverage because you have 2 years left. You know, when 1 year is left, you have a little bit more leverage as a player and as an agent. When you have 2, you really have none. So why would you do this? What does it benefit you to negotiate this way right now? A lot of times players and teams get things done in good faith, right? Hey, come in. We're going to take care of you when we go to the table. Let's just do it this way. We don't have to play hardball with each other. And usually a player will be like, all right, yeah, cool. That works out even better for me. Why do it this way? It doesn't make sense to me.
But there's a chance, probably, like you said, Drew Rosenhaus realizes, okay, if we get some more money up front, if it's moved around a little bit, then he gets more money. Darius Slay gets more money. So it's all about money. It's all about getting a little bit more this year because of the fact that with each passing year, you know, the risks of an injury happen. And then the biggest problem in football is the fact that these contracts aren't guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And I think in the new bargaining agreement, the biggest fight is going to be these athletes, these NFL players really want the money to be guaranteed. So that way the teams can just say, okay, each contract can be 2 years, $12 million each, boom, guaranteed. You automatically get it no matter what. And then I think the system has to be reshaped a little bit. Now, are the owners going to be willing to do that? Because of the fact now, the owners got it great. I can sign you to a deal. If I don't like the terms anymore, if your play drops off significantly, boom, cut it off, and I'm not obligated to pay the terms of the contract anymore. So These athletes want all the money right now.
I totally get that. But that's the whole point of your signing bonus. Yep. That's why you'll see these guys go in and they'll sign a $65 million deal where $40,000 or $40 million of it is all guaranteed. You know, I mean, you basically got $40 million for signing your name. That's crazy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there are guarantees built into these contracts, you know, as long as you don't retire, like Kelvin. There are things built into these contracts to get you the money that you want up front, and sometimes it's more than you're probably worth. I mean, I think what happened, I believe it was a season ago with Kirk Cousins, when he signed his deal in Minnesota, completely fascinating because that's what the players want. That's what the players want. He signed, what was it, 86 or an 87 or $89 million deal with Minnesota, and it's all guaranteed. That's what you want. I get it, right? But that's what your signing bonus is there for. Negotiate for a higher signing bonus. You want a 3-year extension worth, I don't know, $32 million? Okay, cool. Negotiate an $18 million signing bonus for yourself. That means you got $18 million this year plus whatever your check is. It works out, guys. The money's there. You're getting taken care of. We're not crying for the poor here. And I'm not usually one to back an organization. I'm usually pro player. But in this case, you sign these deals. If you wanted more money, negotiate different. At the time when Darius Slay signed his extension, he was a premier cornerback in the league. He now wants to come back to the table after he's had one of his worst seasons in the last 4 and wants to demand more money? The ball's on you. The ball's on you. Who the hell are you? Darius, Snacks Harrison? Great second half of the season. Absolutely incredible. The reason you were traded for was because your deal was so team friendly. That was why they went out and grabbed you. That and your production. Cool. You had a great second half of the season. Let's see if you can put it together for one whole season. Let's see if you can do it for one whole year because you haven't yet. So who the hell are you to come back and demand more money? You know, and I like both these guys. I really do. I find Darius Slay highly entertaining, and I think Snacks Harrison is a guy who could be an ambassador for this team. He could be one of those player ambassadors, the guy who, because he's so out there on Twitter. He's involved already. He will text you or tweet you back. He will talk to you. He is one of those guys who is very charismatic and very friendly. Same thing with Darius Slay. But the ball's on you guys. With 2 years left on your deals, and Darius Slay coming off of a brutal season compared to where he was 2 and 3 and 4 years ago, and Damon Harrison coming in after only a half a year in Honolulu Blue to say, hey, I want more money. I want an extension. Get the hell out of here.
And here's the thing. Okay, let's just fast forward to training camp, and the Detroit Lions decide to pay these guys. Okay, now you have less money to go out there and get impactful guys.
Yeah, add to your team.
Exactly. So that's why these guys are looking out for themselves over the team. And I just think that for the Detroit Lions, they need overwhelming support. They need overwhelming talent in order to get these W's. So these guys, I do think in the end.
And these are two guys, you and I, who never ever stick up for the team.
Right.
We usually are the ones with shovels throwing the dirt on the grave of the team.
Exactly.
We usually bury them.
But with the regime, it's just frustrating that there's always some drama going on with the Detroit Lions. Are you concerned at all that Hard Knocks hasn't made a decision? Do you think that the more time that passes, it lends to maybe some kind of internal debate or struggle that HBO is having to put the Lions on? Because it should be a slam dunk with everything that's going on with who the Raiders have signed. It should be signed, sealed, delivered. This is one of the later announcements that they've made. I'm kind of surprised that the Raiders haven't been announced or that there hasn't been an announcement at all from HBO.
Mm-hmm. It's weird, right? I mean, you would think Oakland would be the perfect case, right? It'd be the perfect test scenario for all of this. You've got Mike Mayock, who's done TV. I find Mike Mayock to be very intelligent, and I do like his insight. He's now working for the Raiders, so for me, some of his credibility goes away.
Yeah.
But that's just because of what the Raiders are. You've got John Gruden, who's done TV, right? He is loved by a lot of people. He has no problem talking. He's a very opinionated guy, all right? You then have AB, who they brought in, right? Antonio Brown made a huge stink last year. This guy right here could have cameras on him 24/7. I want to watch this guy take a shit, and I want to see him get on his phone while he's pooping. That's how interesting he is, right? And then you have other things that surround this entire team, right? Just the draft picks that they made this year. I mean, Clelin Ferrell was not picked to go in the top 10. And this is a guy who went, third overall? I don't remember what the Raiders picked, but he went in the top 5. Crazy, right?
Right.
Absolutely crazy. And then you've got Derek Carr, who had some ups and downs last year. This is supposed to be a very quarterback-friendly coach, and it looked like at times there was conflict with both of them. I don't understand what Hard Knocks is doing here. This seems like it's a soap opera waiting to happen.
Exactly. Or, okay, some people that I've talked to said, you know what, fine. If you want to wait until the Raiders get into their new stadium, all the pomp and circumstance in Vegas, just put the Giants on. You know, you just got a quarterback that you could tell a great story where the entire country, all the radio pundits, all the media crapped on this guy, and this guy's got to come in the shadow of Eli Manning, who himself is embattled over there in New York. Oh my God, the storylines you could tell there. Tell the Giants story this year. You got Saquon Barkley, you got talented individuals there, and then you could just tell the story of who the hell is this crazy GM that
Oakland drafted 4th, by the way.
Yeah, you got this crazy GM that everyone's hating on too. So the Giants could be one to tell a story that the producers could love. So I feel like the Lions are last in the clubhouse. So I do think that when it all plays out, I don't think the Lions are going to be on NFL Hard Knocks. Oh man, some interesting stuff going on with the NFL, the Detroit Lions, and then every year to talk about this too, because this made its way through the rounds last weekend. Every single year, Calvin Johnson comes back and runs a camp, and every year Dave Burkett sticks a microphone in his face and goes, "Hey, what's it going to take for you to come back to the Lions?" And every year Calvin's like, well, I'm not really happy with them because of the fact that they took my money. So this year the version was, hey, if you want me back, put some money in my pocket.
Pay me.
And it really set the internet ablaze because of the fact that Calvin said, okay, I'm willing to come back, but here are the terms. And Calvin Johnson has taken every opportunity that he's had to state his case and to say, I'm not happy. This is what they did. They took money out of my pocket. I'm not happy.
This is the first time he really voiced, though, what would get him back.
But it's pretty obvious that if they took care of him, he would have come back, that he's really upset about the money. And it's so frustrating to me because of the fact that, look, people sign contracts, and I think that's where those that don't support Slay and Harrison are kind of in the same boat, that there's this idea that you're supposed to honor the contract no matter what. But obviously the players will say, well, the owners don't do it either, so that's why I have to play this game.
Right.
But in terms of a signing bonus, you agreed, hey, you get this much money in terms of, hey, this is what we're going to give you up front for you to honor this contract. And so if a player decides to retire early, then the team does have the right to ask for the money back. And the Detroit Lions obviously negotiated with Calvin, and they did ask for it. And Calvin was offended, and people are talking in the neighborhood of maybe $1 million. They could have asked for more. But Calvin Johnson was really upset at the fact that, you know what, I'm Calvin Johnson. And I understand both sides of it, but for Calvin Johnson to continuously beg for money to come back, they asked for the money. They were right. Stop talking about it. Don't take it so personally. It's strictly business.
It's business.
And in the world of business, if an owner has $1 million, people are like, oh, if a guy's got $1 billion, why is he going to ask for $1 million? Well, that's what business says, is that in terms of helping the team, that $1 million went to help the team. So especially at that time when they recouped it, it went toward a salary cap when it wasn't as good as it is now. So it wasn't like Martha Ford took the $1 million and bought another boat with it. She used it back for the team. Now, Calvin's going to say, and his response is fair, look, I played hurt. Look at my fingers. They're all bent and crooked, and I have to take CBD, and I have to take all these things to just function. Look, you're going to do that to me? Yeah, bro, it's a cold-ass business. You signed up to mangle your body. That's what you got paid well in excess of $100 million for. So you're going to get upset about the fact that they want to honor a contract? No, you shouldn't be upset. Calvin looks petty in this situation, and if you don't want to be part of the organization, you don't have to be. And for the Lions, they made the ultimate mistake, and I messaged you about it, is that why would Rod Wood go out and publicly say, oh man, one of our biggest things on our agenda is to go out there and get Calvin back in the fold? Because now you've put it out there. You've opened your cards. In a game of cards and poker, the idea is to hide what you're doing, hide the information. No, the Lions, they just throw it out there. We want Calvin back in the fold. Calvin's going to be like, great. You want me back in the fold? I'm going to start speaking publicly, put the money in my pocket, and that's what it's going to take. Whereas anybody reasonable would say, Rod Wood, all you have to do is text, make a phone call, get in touch with somebody. Calvin's going to answer. You go, okay, what's it going to take for you to get back in the fold? Calvin's going to say, look, Rod, I'm really offended. You guys hurt, really upset me, frustrated me. Other athletes in the NFL, look at Tony Romo, look at some other athletes, Marshawn Lynch. They get their money. They get to keep it. I want my money. Okay, you want your money? I'll take it to Martha. Boom. And get it done. All behind the scenes. None of this has to be public. And if he comes back and is like, Martha's not into it, okay, Rod, thank you so much. Don't call me again. Click. Keep it quiet. But, a guy with $100 million is like, I need $1 million. I need $1 million. And he's starting a business that potentially is going to be very lucrative. I don't think Calvin's going to open a CBD shop and have it go bankrupt. He's going to bank a bunch of money because, if I ever go down that road, I'm going to try Calvin's weed before anybody else's because it might be Megatron weed, mega weed.
I find just the contract structure in the NFL to be fascinating.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely fascinating. Like you said, Calvin has earned in excess of $100 million. Actually, $113.8 million.
Bro, he's okay. It's like, what's $1 million to you?
What's $1 million to you? What is it? And I get it, right? Billionaire, millionaire. I understand, right? But you didn't fulfill the terms of your contract. The team came back to you and said, hey, we need to get some of that back because our cap space is absolute shit because we've been giving you signing bonuses in the amount of $14, $16 million on top of $20 million option bonuses, right? So we gave you guaranteed money. We need just a small part of that back. And it wasn't like you said, it wasn't like they asked for all of it back. They asked for a small part of it. He looks so petty voicing this in the media. Rod Wood doesn't look any better. And the team itself doesn't look any better because, like you said, Tony Romo didn't have to pay any of his back. Marshawn Lynch didn't have to pay any of his back. Generally, the greats in the game, and Calvin Johnson was great. Calvin Johnson was an all-time wide receiver. They don't usually have to pay it back to the team. The team says, it's cool, go on about your business. I think the most fascinating one is Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne signed with the New England Patriots, and he never even made it out of camp. I think he retired like day one in camp. And they said, cool, go ahead, keep your signing bonus. No big deal. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a weird practice. It's a very weird practice when a team comes back and says, hey, we need to recoup some of that. You need to give us some of that back. The only time you ever really see that happen is a case like Malik McDowell, right? Former MSU standout, goes to Seattle, gets hurt in an ATV accident, and can't play football again. So Seattle's like, hey, we're going to need that back because you provided us nothing. In a case like that, you totally get it, right? In this case, does the team seem a little bit petty? Sure. Does Calvin seem more petty? I think so. Going to the media and saying, hey, you need to give me back $1 million. $1 million. Maybe $1.6 million. What? Bro, you earned almost $115 million over the course of your career.
Let it go.
What is this $1 million going to do for you?
It's not the $1 million, it's the principle.
I get it.
It's the whole principle of the idea that you would ask me for the money back after all I've given you. Because here's the thing,
why not do something like this then? All right? Why not go to the team and say, I don't even want the money. What's $1 million to me? I made all this. What's $1 million to me? How about you guys write a check for a charitable donation? Anything. It could be to Calvin Johnson's, one of his organizations,
exactly.
or to his weed business.
Yeah.
Write him a check and say, hey, here's a donation in your name.
For research.
Yeah. For whatever. It doesn't even matter. Do it that way. And then you know what? We both take shovels and we throw dirt on it and we bury it and we don't ever bring this up again.
And I think that's where people are turned off, is that we don't want to see billionaires fight millionaires for money.
It's stupid.
It's stupid, especially publicly.
Yeah.
Fight behind the scenes. Exactly. That's the nature of why people are upset. It's like, okay, a billionaire is going to fight a millionaire for $1 million. It's petty. People don't like to hear that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, if you guys want to agree to part ways, part ways. If you don't want to pay each other, fine. If you want to hold this grudge forever, fine. But the media should stop asking them about it, because it's straightforward. It's easy clickbait every single summer to go ask Calvin how he feels about the Lions. Everybody hates the Lions.
Yeah.
Everybody, you can go there.
We do.
Everybody hates the Lions.
We're Lions fans. What do you think about this? All right, so Barry Sanders retired in a very odd way and left the team hamstrung. Calvin Johnson leaves, and now you've got all this collateral damage with him wanting money.
PR-wise, yeah.
Yeah, and even when Barry left, right, Barry had a very strained relationship with the team, you know? Which one of these guys do you think the public views more favorably? Because remember,
Barry, by far.
Which is weird, though, because Barry left the team in such a lurch. Barry faxed his resignation letter in the day of minicamp, right? Like, the team was getting ready for the season, and Barry was like, yeah, I'm out. So you had already had your draft. The free agency period had already went on. And then Barry was like, I'm good, guys. I'm good. And the team was like, wait, what? Is this real? Like, he faxed it from Kansas City. He couldn't even show up to hand it in or talk to anybody. He faxed a letter. And wait, hold on. Calvin was like, hey, it hurts when I walk and when I wake up in the morning. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to play. And remember when all this started? This all started, I believe Terry Foster was the first one to kind of start breaking the news and kind of start poking around, letting things leak out. And I want to say it was sometime around November. They were in the middle of their season, and there was conversations of Calvin possibly retiring.
Not interesting, yeah.
And then come January, after the season, it got even more heated with him possibly retiring. And I believe by February, he had made his decision. So the team had enough time to go into the draft, address what the issue was with the lack of wide receiver. They could go into free agency, address it there, and still put a functionable team that was not dependent on that position around Matt Stafford. It never really hurt the team. So you have a guy who kind of did it the wrong way, then you have a guy who kind of did it the right way. And the guy who did it the wrong way, in your estimation and in mine, is more loved by this fan base.
Because as time grew on, early on, the shock was unbelievable with how Barry Sanders handled it. But as time grew on...
10 years after Barry retired, people were like, oh, maybe Barry Sanders will come back. Dude, he's 43.
Exactly.
He can't run anymore.
But as time grew, people watched how the organization went down and the decisions that they made, and people became more sympathetic to Barry and was like, dude, he should have left earlier. Because it was dysfunctional.
Well, what about Calvin? What about Calvin? For real. Calvin came in, if I remember correctly, Calvin was drafted by the Millen organization, right? He was one of Millen's draft picks. So he had to live through all that. Then he had to live through Matt Stafford, right?
But,
I mean, believe me, there were growing pains with Matt Stafford, guys. There were.
Bottom line, it's all about winning. Barry Sanders got us that one playoff win. Barry Sanders was in the playoffs. Barry Sanders did create a lot more memories, whereas people look at Calvin Johnson and say, you know, even to this day, they'll say, not a first ballot Hall of Famer. They think, we got to debate him. So people, I think, revere Barry more because he was a better player and he was more impactful for the Lions.
Calvin was also used as a decoy. There were parts of seasons where he didn't even get balls thrown at him. He was the deep threat decoy.
Yeah.
You have a generational talent and an awesome wide receiver, and yet your offensive coordinator and your head coach feel it's okay to use the best player on the field as a decoy. The fuck?
All I can say is this. Calvin Johnson, best known for what? A meme where a play happens and Stafford flips his hat and Calvin drops from the screen.
True.
That's what he's known for.
It's
and
such
now,
a good gif.
Yeah, and it's a bad thing for Calvin and Barry in terms of being part of the organization.
That was the Green Bay game.
In terms of what happens,
the face mask.
Winning cures all, and the Lions have to turn this around and develop a winning culture and to do things better. Just run your organization better, where you don't have all these PR gaffes, you know, time in and time out, because it just seems like when it comes to player relations, sometimes it just they're not doing exactly what's needed. And what does it lead to? Bad PR. So that's what we got to try.
That's what a lot of this is.
Bad PR.
Is there anything particular that you want to hear coming out of OTAs right now? Anything special to you? Anything that you need to that'll just kind of make you feel a little bit warm and fuzzy inside?
No, I like what's being talked about. I mean, Matt Patricia understands what's going on. He's got installed different things. Obviously, he's pretty specific when he talks to the media. He's talking about right now they're addressing third down situations, being aware of certain things, getting new things installed and stuff like that. So just a bunch of learning. It's particular. For me, mini camps, it's okay, fine. I get more invested heavily in training camp. When it gets started and they're doing the workouts and everything's going and they're prepping for games, that's when I'm all about it. But mini camp is fine. It's just to acclimate everybody to the system and to get reinvigorated back into it. So nothing really outside of now the biggest storyline with Snacks and Darius Slay am I interested in. I don't think because they don't reveal too much. Obviously, everyone's okay. And the biggest thing that has to happen out of these camps is in terms of football, as long as nobody gets hurt for the Lions and that everyone can be A-okay, then it's all good. And keep the drama relatively free.
My thing that I wanna hear that I think needs to come to light for me to make me feel a little bit warm and fuzzy is I need to know what's going on with that offense. And more specifically the offensive line. You've had pieces moved around, you've had different guys try different positions. I need to know what's going on with that offensive line. I need to know who's filling in at right guard. You know what I'm saying? I need to know what is up with our center position. Is it Graham Glasgow? Is it Ragnow? Who is it? What's up? How does Taylor Decker look? You know, these are all things I need to know. What is going on? Are we always running 2 tight end sets? I mean, is it Jesse James and TJ Hawkinson all the time on the field? What do those guys look like? Is Michael Roberts going to be a better tight end, or is he just what he is and that's all he is? Those are things I want to hear. But I think the one thing that I have heard so far that I do like, if you listen to Matt Patricia, he doesn't give you a ton, but Matt Patricia seems more cordial. He seems to understand his role in this process much more and much better than he did last year. I think he has grown a ton from last year. And I think in the end, it makes the team that much better. He is now conducting himself much more professionally. He looks like he's holding himself a little bit more accountable. He is taking time with the reporters because if you remember last year, he fought the reporters. It felt like every press conference was a heavyweight slugfest. He would fight them on everything. They would ask him a question. Oh, well, why do you need to know that? What relevance does that have? That's not important. And now he's up there answering questions. I heard I think it was like a 25 or 30 minute clip of Matt Patricia being interviewed by the media, and somebody had asked him a question. He answered it, and then he went on to answer another question. He double backed and was like, "Did I answer everything for you? Did I cover everything for you? Did I answer it? Do you need anything else?" Like he asked that. You know, he could have just kept on going, but he decided to circle back to make sure that he answered everything. And I think that shows growth, and I think that shows a guy who totally understood that maybe I was a little bit in over my head last year. Maybe I didn't quite understand what I needed to do. And I think this year he steps in, and I think he's much more comfortable, much more confident. And just you as an everyday guy doing everyday things, right? You show up at work. The moment something clicks and you feel much more confident about it, you are much better at doing your job. You're much more efficient. And I think you're going to see that out of Matt Patricia. I think that's important.
Want to give love to 2 of our sponsors that help make this broadcast possible. Our sponsors allow us to keep the lights on and the microphones hot here in our Sterling Heights studios. First, I want to thank the Motor City Pawn Brokers, a great sponsor of the network. The Motor City Pawn Brokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand name new, and pre-owned merchandise with locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren. Their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all information regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers, go check out MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. That's MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. Now, we've just spent 40 minutes talking about Calvin Johnson, Darius Slay, Snacks Harrison. If you want to continue the conversation, head on over to Flick, a great application. I can't tell you how much I enjoy working with the crew over there at Flick. All it is an application that you can join free, and you can engage in great sports debates. You can air out your podcast. You can promote things that you got going on in your website. It's really great. We got a lot of people joining up. All you have to do is search an application titled Flick, and you sign up. And if you hit that little plus button and you want to enter a group, enter these 3 letters, all lowercase DSP. And you can engage in great sports debates. You can create your own topic. If you got something that you're really interested in, the NBA or the NHL Finals, we're talking about that next. You can go in there, create a topic. A lot of our friends are in there. Doc and Jock are in there. All the hosts here on the network are all part of the Flick application. It's really great. And if you browse our social media at Detroit Podcast, you'll see periodically invite links. All you got to do is click it, and you'll be part of a great new headquarters, the newest Detroit sports headquarters, Flick.
So real quick, before we jump into what we're going to talk about next, remember how I told you I find NFL contracts fascinating? I just did the math on Calvin Johnson and what he basically guaranteed, or what he earned throughout the course of his career that was guaranteed. And I told you that he earned roughly $113 million and some change, right? Out of that, 70.9, this is after I took off that $1.5 million that the Lions asked for back, $70.9 million was guaranteed to him.
Sheesh.
Was like, here you go, keep that. We just wrote you a check. Dude, almost 65% of your pay was guaranteed. It was given to you in massive amounts of money. It was trucks. Here's a truck, there's a truck, here's another truck for you of cash.
Again, cuz when you look at business in terms of what drives these guys, it's more. Make $1 million, give me 2. Make 2, give me 3. Darius Slay makes 12, I want 14. I'm making 14, give me 18 for 10 years. That's what it is. Everybody wants that security. Everybody wants to be shown the love. And how is love shown by a professional sports team? Cash and years. And that's just the way it is. And if you're not getting the cash compared to your boys, that's the tough part about contracts is it's an ever-evolving system where every single year, because the NFL is such a cash cow, it's like, dude, you're making $15 million a year, but then in 2 years, your little cousin that just graduated comes in and he's making $25 million. And you're like, damn, bro, that's why now Stafford's contract, everyone's like, oh, it's the greatest contract ever. And bro's making $27 million to not get playoff wins. And everyone's like, it's valuable. It's lovely. Why? It's great. Because why? Now Kirk Cousins comes in and Aaron Rodgers comes in and Matt Ryan comes in and renegotiates, and they're making 30, 31, 32. The biggest problem is escalating contracts is the biggest nightmare for owners because of the fact that all these athletes are like, well, I want to be paid like him. I want to be that guy. I'm the second best corner in the league, so I want the second best money. And that's where this problem is that it's a situation in which top-end contracts are just going up and up and up and up and up in every sport. And that's a big problem.
And what do you do as an owner, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You can only count on your TV deal being renegotiated, getting more money.
I'll tell you what you do. Okay? To answer that question, here's what you do.
You pass that cost on to the fans for so long.
Here's what you do. You move on from Darius Slay. You move on from Snacks, and you rely on the fact that, hey, Bob, hey, Patriot Way, when this would happen, they were gone. Yep. There's a long list of guys that when their time was up with New England, many people were like, what? You let go of him? What? You let go of him? Hey, in the world of the NFL, sometimes you got to let them go and get the next 22-year-old that can do it for cheaper.
Before we get into what we're going to talk about next, do you see a time where I think Snacks will be gone once his contract's up? Mm-hmm. Maybe he'll be traded before as an expiring deal for some other team who maybe needs a defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman. But do you see a time where Slay is let go, where this is a guy that they drafted, this is a guy that they brought up, this is a guy who has essentially been an impactful player since his second season, since his sophomore season. He has been one of the best in the league at his position. Do you see a time where they're like, cool, adios?
I think both of them get signed. I think that
you think they both get extended.
Mm-hmm. I think
really?
I do for Snacks and Slay.
Yeah.
I think it gets done it gets done probably midway between game 2 and game 3.
Oh, so you think it's going to happen this year?
Yeah, I believe that both these guys are fan favorites. Mm-hmm. They're guys in the locker room. It's going to be annoying. It's going to get dragged out, but eventually the deals get done. No doubt about it. Yeah, the deals get done.
I don't see.
There's enough money. The Lions put themselves in a good position.
Yeah.
They got enough cap space. It's going to be annoying. I don't think both parties might be exactly happy, but it'll get done. Darius Slay and Snacks are going to play game 1.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
So
Guaranteed.
2 or 3 year extension for these guys. I don't think you go any more than that.
No, 2 max.
2 max for both of them?
Yep.
So basically they just extend their contract. So it's like a 4-year deal then for them, what they would have remaining. So they both have 2. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't see Bob Quinn doing that.
You think this drags out into the season, or
think
gets let go?
I think they play, but I don't see Bob Quinn re-signing a guy like Snacks. I could see him re-signing Darius Slay because it's really hard to find a cornerback who is that impactful.
Now, if Bob Quinn's an OG, one answer, no. He's got the leverage.
Right.
No.
What's the thing? That's kind of where I'm at with it, right?
No.
Because he doesn't have to sign these guys.
No, he doesn't have to. I think he will, though. I think that you got to try and save face a little bit. Maybe you don't extend it out. Maybe you give them more guaranteed money. You do some of the creative negotiating that you can do. But they will be happy, and you will see some new deals in place for both of them.
Interesting.
Bob Quinn, if you're an OG, just say no. See what happens.
Wow.
Make them decide.
That blows my mind that you're just your answer is just crazy to me. But I mean, this is gonna be interesting to see what happens for sure. All right, let's move on. We spent like 45 minutes talking Lions. Good. I love Lions, but too much.
Are you peeking into the Stanley Cup Finals or the NBA?
Oh yeah.
Good stuff,
they both have been really, really good.
Man, I love the back and forth nature. Let's start with the NHL.
Yeah.
I think that early on, many people assumed that Boston was going to destroy the St. Louis Blues. St. Louis had the early lead game 1, and then people were like, here's Boston again. They were rusty. They came back. Game 2, St. Louis comes in and takes care of business. Game 3 was a little bit surprising in that Boston was just on fire. Everything they threw on net was in. I was like, damn. You blink, it was like 3-0 in the first period, and you're like, damn, what's going on? Then Game 4, St. Louis gets behind the team, and they're playing well. I just think that series could go the full 7 games, and it's going to be a wild series.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun series to watch.
I think so, too.
It's exciting. It's good, hard-hitting. You got 2 fan bases that are rabid. It's good stuff. I like the hockey. The goaltending could be a little bit better, in terms of the shots and things like that. A lot of weak goals kind of being let in. But by and large, lots of good hitting. You see Zdeno Chara take that puck to the face.
Yeah.
Just that fast. You see how fast the puck can get in your face, and he's back in it. Puts the cage on, and he's right back in it.
He's questionable for Game 5 with a broken jaw. But, yeah, this has been an incredible series. Like you said, the back-and-forth nature of it, some of the goals, but overall, the talent with both these teams in just kind of the contrasting way that they play. St. Louis is very north-south, right? Let's dump the puck in. Let's get the puck in behind the net. Let's circle it. Let's get shots on net. And it's very much, we're going to throw everything at you, including the kitchen sink. Whereas Boston has a little bit more flair, a little bit more panache to them. It's a little bit more of a je ne sais quoi. Did I say that right? I hope so. I don't know. I just wanted to sound fancy for a minute. But it's contrasting styles. And not to say that Boston won't muck it up with you. I mean, you've got one of my favorite players, and he is a slimy rat in Marchand. I think I like him a lot. I do. I like the way he plays. He does things that a lot of guys won't do, or a lot of guys are a little bit too intimidated to do, and he's got no problem doing it. And I love Patrice Bergeron. I think he's incredible. Watching Game 3, there was I think it was in the first period. It's an offensive zone faceoff for Buffalo, or for Boston, and he wins the draw back. So a couple things. These are all small things that I think people tend to overlook, and this is me geeking out because I was screaming it to my wife while we were out at dinner watching the game, and I freaked out because it was watching it on the replay. It was the only thing that really did it justice and made you really understand what he brings to a team. So Bergeron's in the faceoff dot, wins the puck back. He then ties up his man off the faceoff, right? Essentially moving him out of the way and setting a screen all at the same time. Shot comes from the point. He does just a very subtle. He just kind of opens his stick up a little bit and deflects the puck, and it goes in. And it was a multitude of little things that led to that. And a lot of people just don't appreciate that. And that's the one thing he brings to the table, which I find so incredibly interesting and I think is absolutely amazing and awesome to watch when he plays. But overall, this series goes 7 games.
Yes.
It goes 7 games. And when you get
Which team's better? Is it Boston?
I think the talent is better on Boston. But you have so many really good skill players, and I think St. Louis is such a complete team.
Bumington has to stop the puck for the Blues. I call him Bumington because the way he put, I was like texting everybody
because it was 7-2.
Yeah.
That game was brutal, man.
Bumington.
We got pulled after the 5th goal in Game 3.
I think Boston's going to take it down.
I think Boston wins it too. I think they have just a little bit more. But that being said, St. Louis is a really complete team. St. Louis is absolutely amazing. There was I think it was Tarasenko's goal in Game 4. Again, little things, right? So St. Louis forces a turnover in their defensive zone. Puck gets moved up. I don't remember who had it. I think it might have been O'Reilly along the boards. He had 3 guys surrounding him. There was a small seam. When I say small seam, I'm holding my fingers up right now, roughly 6 to 7 inches apart. Small seam. He feathers a pass through there. Feathering that pass through there, I don't remember the other guy's name, but he basically lifts the stick of the Boston defender. That allowed the pass to get behind both of them, and I believe it ended up on Petrangelo's stick, who then does a toe drag, goes around a guy, gets a shot off, and then Tarasenko comes blowing down the middle and puts it in behind the net to clean up the scraps. And it's just little things like that. If you just watch that play in real time, you're like, wow, that was a really nice goal. And then you watch it in slow motion, and you're like, so many skilled guys had to do so many little things to make that play work. And it just kind of blows your mind because this is the highest level, and it's awesome to watch. And sometimes you can only see it when they slow everything down and they show it to you. Because again, you had to make a defensive turnover, which was a guy playing sound defensively and had his stick turned just right to break up a pass, to then force the puck up, get it along the boards, then feather a pass within a 6 to 7 inch window. And then you had to have another guy not be selfish enough to touch that puck, but he had to do one thing, and that was lift a stick. So he did his job by lifting a stick. Then you had another guy who was highly talented basically do a toe drag around another guy and get a shot off, and then have another guy come in and clean it up.
Stamp it.
It's just little things.
Bruins hold the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, me too. Now, turning our attention to the NBA.
I got really long-winded there. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. You got time.
It was just these last 2 games have been amazing to watch.
Turning our attention to the NBA before we get out of here. Interesting series. It's going to go back and forth. I do think this one also goes 6 or 7 games. It's just a series that stinks because of the fact that guys are getting hurt left and right. You don't have both of these teams at full strength, because I do believe that at full strength, the Warriors would destroy the Raptors.
The way the Warriors are built,
it's sick.
It's absolutely disgusting, right?
They win a game without Kevin Durant and a hurt Klay Thompson.
Yes.
You realize, wow, Curry.
You had to bring
Iguodala,
Boogie Cousins, basically dust him off with the mothballs and put him in there.
And he gets a double-double. Exactly. And so you realize, wow, if the Warriors were at full strength.
Iguodala's non-3 hitting ass hits a big 3 with 5 seconds left.
Exactly.
Bananas.
What's Nick Nurse doing? Extend the game out. Cover the guy at least. Make him at least, have a contested shot. They're so wide open.
Yes, no. But if you look at what his defense did, his defense allowed them to get within 2 points with 29 seconds left. So his defense did the job. It was a bad job on the players rotating over to cover. And he got put in a bad spot because Kyle Lowry fouled out with basically a whole entire quarter left. You know what I'm saying? Like, just, what are you doing?
Very important Game 3. I do think that the Warriors play well at home, and it's going to be really tough for the Raptors, but it's going to be a great series.
Yeah.
All the way around. It's been great.
Do you think Toronto was underestimated in this? I think so. You don't?
No.
Oh, I think so.
Underestimated?
Yeah.
You got Kawhi Leonard. I think that if you say
I don't
that
think anybody expected Toronto to have a chance against Golden State.
I think most people said Warriors in 5 or 6. Now, those that are, fanboys and really, really extreme said a sweep. Look, you got Kawhi Leonard. In basketball, a guy can get hot. So, for me, if you had asked me beforehand, because I'm, paying attention passively, I would have said Warriors in 6. Because Kawhi Leonard and then other aspects that can play a part, too, is, injuries and the officials and other aspects that kind of get in the way, too. Home court advantage is in Toronto, so they're going to have a passionate opportunity there. So, again, when a team gets to the finals, it's very rare that they're going to get swept. So, but for me, the best team is the Warriors. But KD's hurt, but he might come back, and potentially speaking,
Clay's hurt.
Clay's hurt.
That whole team is banged up right now.
But for some reason, there's enough time to come back, and Clay's going to play. And you got to remember, Draymond Green, Iguodala, and Curry are still pretty much better than a lot of the talent in the entire league. The depth is so unbelievably crazy,
right?
Right. Boogie Cousins could potentially take over a series.
Yeah.
And he's now coming into his own a little bit. Obviously, his mobility is terrible. Dude can't move. You can get around.
He's coming off an injury himself.
Exactly. But in terms of the series, it's been very exciting, very interesting to watch. I just think for Toronto to actually take it down and shock the world, Kawhi is going to have to go off for like 40 and 50, and he's going to have massive support from a lot more players.
Kawhi and Siakam will have to carry this team. Kawhi needs some help, right? Yeah. So it has to be him plus somebody else. If he can get Kyle Lowry to stay on the floor and contribute with some baskets, they've got a better shot. This is the thing, right? So as this series was kind of ramping up and before any game got played, I was like, okay, cool, Golden State in 6, no problem, right? And then I started doing a little bit more research, started doing a little bit more of a deep dive, and I was just blown away at how many more points guys like Kawhi and Siakam score and how much more Kyle Lowry distributes the ball in games against Golden State. And that really kind of made me sit back and scratch my head and say, I think Golden State's the better team. But if KD doesn't play, I wasn't counting on Kawhi or Kyle Lowry getting hurt. But if KD doesn't play, I think Toronto's got a real good shot here. And this could be another one of those series, much like the NHL Finals, where it goes to 7 games. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think Toronto blew game 2.
Yeah.
Golden State goes on a 20-0 run. You basically allowed them back in the game. And then with 29 seconds left, you cut the lead to 2. And you leave a wide open Iguodala who gets the ball at the arc, double clutches, still has time to think about it before anybody even thinks about going to cover him. And he's like, he looks around. Okay, cool. I'm just going to shoot. Is that okay, guys? And he nails it. Like you said, the depth on Golden State is disgusting right now. Absolutely disgusting. But I much like you, I think it goes 6, probably goes 7.
Which series has been better? Which league is putting on a better show right now?
I think the more entertaining is the NHL.
Yeah. Yep, agree.
But I think the one that's a little bit more interesting to watch is the NBA. So they're both very, very good, right? I think the NHL has been exquisite, absolutely exquisite. But I think with the NBA, what you're seeing is that there's more talking points with the NBA rather than with the NHL. And that's what I mean by more interesting. So does KD come back? Does KD want to play? What happens with Klay being hurt now? Okay, cool. We have to insert DeMarcus Cousins. What can he do? He takes over a game. Do you know what I'm saying? That's just Golden State. We haven't even touched on the Raptors. I mean, Siakam had a breakout game. Can he do this long-term over the course of a series? Kawhi basically went off in game 2, and they still lost, right? So what else does Kawhi have to do? Who will be that next guy on Toronto to step up and help Kawhi and Siakam out? Who? They're just more. There's more story arcs to talk about with the NBA, whereas with the NHL, it's just been absolutely fascinating hockey.
Great podcast recording, sir. Check out our Red Wing specific podcast called Top Shelf. Comes out every other week on Fridays. Thank you for supporting the network. You can find the Detroit Sports Podcast anywhere that podcasts are aired. You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. In the coming weeks, we'll continue to peek at the Lions, peek at the end result of the NBA and NHL playoffs, and then we're going to talk about the Red Wings because obviously we want to compare the Red Wings to potentially the Oilers. So a lot coming in future weeks. Hopefully great guests will come on as well. Thank you for supporting the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, going strong since 2013. We appreciate everybody who's listened. Thank you. You've just downloaded the latest edition of Doc and Jock. Look forward to talking to you guys next week.
It's not over yet, so you can ask me that one next week.
Go Blue, bitch.
This was locker room talk.
Second deck.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me things I'll do.